Okay, first of all, I just want you to know that I identify as a Ravenclaw rising with a Slytherin moon.
Gen Z always critiques millennial style, saying our style is not original.
Millennials look fantastic for our age.
Someone told me it's cringe to use the crying laugh emoji.
I get it. It's hard to keep up with the things these days. It's okay, take the L. It's fine.
You're just jealous because you didn't grow up in the 90s.
Tired of boomers bunching Gen Z and millennials together because I personally don't want to be associated with people who still think that Harry Potter movies are a personality trait.
In case you didn't know, millennials and Gen Z are beefing. And the hashtag millennials versus Gen Z shows countless examples of this. I want to take a little bit of a deep dive into this fascinating corner of the internet today with you, especially considering the most recent beef that I saw that's actually a resurfaced beef is involving Eminem, out of all people. So I want to dive into exactly where I think this beef started and share with you the mini beefs or just the mini rivalries that we have seen on social media since this beef began. I think a lot of what we're seeing on TikTok between the two generations is for the most part just like harmless, fun, harmless roasts. However, I do think that some people are taking it a little bit more seriously than others, and we will be exploring that today. So before we get into today's video, I do feel the need to say that it is filled with a lot of stereotypes. And of course, it's worth noting that not all millennials hate Gen Z and not all Gen Zers hate millennials. And nor do the things that I'm mentioning in today's video stand true for the generations as a whole. I do just feel the need to say that because these comment sections on TikTok, they're savage. Today's video is quite funny because I went into this research thinking one thing and then left the research of today's video feeling a completely different way. And look, I hate to say this, but the beef kind of feels and seems a little bit one-sided. And like I said, we're going to be exploring that today. We're going to be exploring who I think is leading this beef more than the other and why that may be the case. I do want to start off with some stats that I do think are quite worth noting. And that is that apparently, according to TikTok data that came out in May of this year, 60% of users on TikTok are actually Gen Z. And in case you're wondering, Gen Z was born between 97 and 2012, which makes them anywhere between about 12 and 27 years old, whereas millennials were born between 1981 and 1996, which makes them anywhere between the ages of around 28 to 43. So as far as I'm concerned, this whole beef actually started when a Gen Z user on TikTok came out with a haul sharing what she deemed to be flared leggings, which were essentially what we know to be, if you're a millennial, we know them to be yoga pants. But in the Gen Z TikTokers' defense, that was and is still to this day what a lot of the retailers are calling yoga pants. They now calling them flared leggings. And also, look, to be fair, cut her some slack. If you weren't old enough to experience yoga pants, and when yoga pants were in their prime, you probably were so young that you couldn't even say the word yoga pants. If you looked at a pair of these, I think it would be a fair assumption to use the description of flared leggings. They kind of are also flared leggings. Here are some tweets from 2020 from this incredibly controversial time. Can't believe the TikTok teens have just discovered yoga pants and they're calling them flared leggings. I hate it here. For the love of all that is holy, they're yoga pants. I did not watch everyone I know go through a phase where we thought that Victoria's Secret's thick-banded yoga pants were the epitome of fashion to watch a bunch of people born like 4 years after me rebrand them as flared leggings. I didn't think 2020 could get any worse until 1, people are bringing back yoga pants, and 2, calling them flared leggings. This is where a lot of the beef started, and of course, like I mentioned in the beginning, this is all just, I think, a little bit of harmless fun. It's not that deep, we're literally just talking about pants. However, I do think a lot of millennials, like they expressed, were really taken aback by the fact that these yoga pants being rebranded as flared leggings were back in. And I think a lot of them were taken aback because they felt old. They felt old and they could not believe that something that they wore has come back around what feels like so quickly. The discourse then moved on to skinny jeans and high-waisted versus low-rise jeans. And this, I think, was 10 times more heated than the flared leggings debate. The conversation went something like, skinny jeans are out of fashion, you're so old and unfashionable and untrendy and uncool if you're wearing skinny jeans. Or so it seems as if millennials were kind of projecting that narrative and potentially projecting what they thought Gen Z was saying about these fashion pieces for the most part.
Ew, this is so cringe. Guilty.
I found this one creator on TikTok. It says here, how to style skinny jeans. She's holding them up. It says, throw them out, burn them, or cut them up and make something else. And her caption reads, skinny jeans just aren't for me, but to each their own. And again, let me read that again. Skinny jeans just aren't for me, but to each their own. Now this just seems like a harmless, kind of fun, slightly, you know, taking a jab at skinny jeans kind of video. It seems pretty harmless and not really that nasty. And I think from what I saw personally, a lot of Gen Z was simply sharing what they were into, aka low-rise baggy jeans. That's kind of the direction they were heading. From what I saw, they were really just sharing what they now considered to be out of fashion, which is really technically something that millennials have been doing on the internet for years. Conversations about fashion trends and different generations has been happening for a really long time. But I think millennials really took this whole skinny jeans, low-rise high-waisted, flared leggings debate really seriously. Millennials on social media, especially TikTok, I think did have a lot to say about low-rise jeans coming back in. And that could be for a few reasons. Number one, I think it's a little bit of PTSD from like a bit of a darker time. I think back in the day when these low-rise jeans, real true low-rise jeans were in fashion, it takes them back to a time where unhealthy body standards and this real skin and thin is in was very much prevalent in society. And just as a lot of people on social media suspected, this is now very much the case. We're now back in this time in the early 2000s where it feels like thin is in.
Funny, but not funny haha. Funny that traumatized the out of me.
Coupled with the fact that when some millennials who are now finding out that low-rise jeans are back in, they're thinking, oh my gosh, I wore them back when I was 19, 18, 20. I'm now potentially like 40, 43 years old. Maybe I've had 2 kids, maybe I haven't. But my body and my metabolism doesn't work the same way, and there's no way in hell that I am wearing low-rise jeans. I mean, that's how I feel now personally. I didn't wear them back then, and I sure as shit ain't wearing them now, okay? My tummy's not built for that. I think this has led to a lot of millennials feeling slightly triggered. That is an overused word. However, I don't know how else to really describe it.
It's really draining. It's emotionally, physically, and spiritually exhausting to be going through this.
There was other debates, roasts online, if you will. Hair being one, middle part versus side part. Middle part is apparently where it's at. Side part gives it away that you're a millennial. It's not cool anymore. Front tuck versus left untuck. Apparently Gen Z don't like front tucks. They like to let their clothes hang.
Gen Z told us millennials that we can't do a front tuck anymore. And I'm just gonna ask you, like, does this not look like a grandma? Like, this looks a million times worse. At least with the front tuck, we have a waist. A million times better. Am I wrong?
No-show socks versus crew socks. Ankle boots apparently as well, they're done. Fitted blazers are another thing. Chunky jewelry, remember those chunky statement necklaces that a lot of us used to wear? Apparently they're done as well. There is a number of items that Gen Z dislike or just don't really favor or consider to be out of fashion that millennials are just not willing to part with. And to be fair, I don't think many people on the internet are really trying to force them to part with anything, so to speak, but I can understand why they feel the way they do. The discourse surrounding style, for the most part, did feel quite harmless. Generations just taking slight little jabs and digs at each other.
Are you a millennial having a hard time letting go of skinny jeans? Do you worry other jeans won't look good on you? And you want to join in, but you're scared? Stovepipe jeans can help. Being praised as the gateway jeans, they're not as loose as straight jeans, making them the easy transition denim. Side effects may include being happy, exploring other denim options, fitting in with your friends, expanding your horizons. If you have skinny jean syndrome, try Stovepipe today.
I always felt like, I think to a lot of millennials, that if their skinny jeans and their high-waisted jeans were being taken away from them, it would feel as if a part of their identity was under threat. Her post reads, "Hey Gen Z, I've faced infertility, PPD, and suicidal thoughts. Had my abdomen sliced open during childbirth and peed in a diaper. I pay a mortgage, work, and school my kid in a pandemic. It's cute that you think I have time or f***s to give about what you think of my hair and jeans." Now, I don't know how you read that, but I read that like a bit like, oh, she's fired up. Becky Vieira is fired up. This comment here from someone called Libby Shooter says, very true, but honestly, I haven't seen any Gen Zers tell anyone what to do in a mean way. It was only a joke that millennials took too far. And from my research and what I've seen on the internet, I hate to say it, but it does very much seem as if this is a more one-sided beef. And millennials, again, not all millennials, I know I'm not certainly taking it that personally, but I think some millennials are taking this a little bit personally. She literally made an entire Instagram graphic about this. She's clearly fired up about this. This is clearly something she's very passionate about. Which led me to think that I feel like this discourse, to me, highlights that a large number of millennials were having to kind of come to terms with the fact that they were getting older and they weren't necessarily the 20-something trendy go-to trendsetters that they used to be on social media.
How do you do, fellow kids?
What? I know a lot of you are gonna hate that I'm saying that right now, but that's just kind of how I view it. I'm trying to be as objective as possible. Like I said, and I am a millennial. For so long, millennials, for the most part, were the majority of the generations that were on social media. They kind of ran social media, I suppose. Granted, yes, did I come across something seemingly nasty or like very ageist comments coming from Gen Z? Yes, but also from what I saw, it did appear that they were in the minority. But of course, at the same time, I fully acknowledge that I was not able to see absolutely everything. I scoured TikTok for as many videos as I could find related to this beef, but I also have to acknowledge that there are literally 23.56 million videos uploaded to TikTok on a daily basis. And TikTok's a bit strange in the sense that it doesn't have a filter that you can sift through and find like the first or the origins of a certain trend or a certain beef or a certain conversation. So I wasn't really able to see the origins of this, which really left me to just scroll through the hashtag and see what I could see. For the most part, it just was mainly millennials saying that Gen Z was like taking a stab at their style and various other things, but I really couldn't find said videos or really many videos at all of Gen Z doing this.
Gen Z always critiques millennial style, saying our style is not original, they hate our on running, they hate aloe yoga, they'd rather go to the Goodwill and thrift their clothing. Meanwhile, they go there and they buy our actual clothing, like the clothing that we wore in the 90s, that's what they're wearing, and that's their original style. Very original, guys.
A lot of videos that I personally came across were of millennial TikTokers with text overlay or just creating videos saying that Gen Z was telling them that their clothes weren't cool anymore, or Gen Z was saying that this and that was out of style and out of fashion. And it's fascinating because I couldn't necessarily see or find said videos where Gen Z were actually outrightly coming out and saying these things. So the next layer in this so-called beef came from both millennials and honestly some Gen Z were also in agreement that they felt like they are quote unquote aging like milk.
Respectfully, you look like you're pushing 45. Stop getting filler or Botox, whatever you have. It looks so bad. 45? 22. Yeah, shocker.
And it seemed as if millennials took this as an opportunity to humble, but also some not so humbly brag about how they looked younger than a lot of their Gen Z counterparts.
Millennials look fantastic for our age. And you cannot tell us otherwise. And the reason why you think we don't look great for our age is because we have set the new standard of what it looks like to age.
There are actually a few theories floating around as to why this may be. I'd like to hear from you in the comments down below if you want to chime in on this conversation. But some of the theories floating around as to why some of Gen Z might be aging rapidly or may potentially look older than some millennials is this idea that a lot of them potentially were indulging in things like fillers and Botox from a younger age. I know for me personally, even though I'm a millennial, this was something that was pushed to me even at like 21. I was told to partake in preventative Botox at 21. I didn't, and I think maybe a lot of millennials who are even doing Botox now may have not necessarily been doing it at 21, where I do feel like it's just more of a growing industry and a lot of Gen Zers are partaking and are doing Botox and filler from a young age, and they started a lot younger, which can almost have like an opposite effect, and it can also almost age you if you take it too far.
Reason why us 20-year-olds are looking like this, while Kim Kardashian and Kate Beckinsale are looking like this, as well as Megan Fox. When you're younger, you naturally are gonna have a little bit more volume in your face. So we're just pushing way more into our skin than what we naturally already have, giving you that very youthful appearance, no lines, no wrinkles, nothing. But when you constantly overfill it with more things that you don't need and you're just pushing more and more filler into your face, it's gonna give you a pillow face. Versus when you're older and you naturally lose more collagen and your elasticity in your skin, you're wanting to fill it so that way you look like you have more volume there to give you more of that shape
and that more youthful appearance. That's just my theory on why we're aging ourselves and the older generation is looking great.
People are also saying it's potentially from just more of an access to skincare and makeup from an earlier age. I think a lot of Gen Z started wearing makeup and skincare a lot younger than millennials did.
Millennials was not allowed to wear makeup in middle school.
I don't think I've seen this theory thrown around, but it's something I personally think. Early and more frequent exposure to mobile phones, to computer screens, and to blue light does also age your skin. You know, when we think about Gen Z and how they've basically grown up with technology and grown up with an iPad or a phone in their face for prolonged periods of time, that could also potentially age you. Stress is another theory that's thrown around quite a bit. Gen Z apparently is one of the most stressed generations.
Apparently, Gen Z is like aging really rapidly.
It is mainly because of the stress. Come here. One time I wanted an autograph from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, right? I was standing for hours for this autograph, and when he walked up to me, I said, "Can you please sign this poster? It's for Jordan," right? He then took it and put, "Dear Jordan, your dad is a great guy. He stood out here for hours," and then gave it back to me. And before I can correct him, he looked at me and said, "Times were way more difficult back when we were kids, am I right?" And then he tapped my shoulder and left. Dwayne is 52. I am 26.
Vaping is another one that I think is spoken about quite a lot. Vaping is very much cool now. The next layer of this so-called Gen Z millennial beef that we're talking about today comes into play in the workforce and the workplace. Millennials say that Gen Z are lazy, entitled, they don't want to work, they're difficult to work with, they're always banging on about their mental health, they refuse to ever work late, they're stubborn, they won't attend meetings at lunchtime.
I'm a Gen Z in corporate. Of course, I'm not going to that meeting that's during my lunchtime. Sorry, take it off the schedule. I'm a Gen Z in corporate. Of course, the screen is hitting the keyboard at 5 o'clock on the dot. Maybe even 4:30. Sorry. I'm a Gen Z in corporate. What do you mean, what is a mental health day? Figure it out, because I'm taking one a month. Sorry.
We're Gen Zs. Everyone thinks we're lazy at work.
Wait, what do you actually do?
They also apparently do like weird little email sign-offs. There are just countless TikTok skits from millennials ranting about their Gen Z colleagues. Whereas Gen Z consider millennials to have no boundaries and to overwork themselves.
Before everyone logs off, just a reminder, I will be offline tomorrow. Yes, of course. I will still be completely reachable by phone if you need me. Not a hassle at all. No. Hi, Greg. No, I'm not busy right now. What's up? My vacation day is going well. Yeah. I'm actually getting married. What's up? Of course we can discuss the report. You're not interrupting at all. Locked out of your email. Oh no. Well, do you want to just call me back? Yeah, I can try to help you guess your password. Well, if it's usually Greg is great, maybe this one has some numbers at the end. Greg is great 69. Awesome. Do you want to pull the report up now? Oh, you have to go now? That's totally fine.
Now, this is where I'd love to hear from you again in the comments down below. I personally am not in a work environment with any Gen Zers, so if you are, I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. Share with me your experience, or if you're a Gen Zer and you want to chime in on this, share with me your thoughts as well in the comments down below. I want to share this one part of an article. This person writes, "The stereotypes about Gen Z refusing to join an early meeting or ones that take place over their lunch break are, in my experience, true. But again, that's not remotely down to laziness. Instead, it's a recognition that their boundaries are important. They've seen the stress and overwhelm experienced by the burnout, people-pleasing generation of millennials who side hustled and girl-bossed their way right into despair. And they've seen how pointless it all is. Gen Z have seen that working late and skipping breaks doesn't get you further. You'll just be taken for granted, your hard work rewarded with more work and not enough pay, and still at a risk of sweeping redundancies. They've recognized that productivity is not simply hours worked, but the efficiency of those hours. They know that time away from work matters, and so their boundaries are sacred. They also know that life is not just about work, that work absolutely can be meaningful, but so can other things. They care about a workplace's values and ethics, and if a workplace isn't delivering, they're very willing to be out of there entirely. I think rather than calling Gen Z lazy, getting angry about their boundaries, or resenting them for having it easier, other generations can learn how to best work with Gen Z and learn from them too. Again, I would love to hear from you in the comments down below. Do you agree with it? Do you disagree with it? I'd love to hear your thoughts. The next so-called beef is surrounding emojis and slang.
I did a thing. I just became a plant mom and a dog mom. Is this adulting?
Now, we know that every generation has their different style of slang, way of speaking. I don't really necessarily like this like policing of emojis that I'm seeing. I mean, I don't know about you, but my dad personally writes everything in capitals like he's yelling at you. And instead of writing like you too, he literally just puts a U a two. Would I have him any other way? No, I would not. But it seems as if millennials are being almost like roasted by Gen Z for their use of emojis.
Shut up, it is not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
I use this emoji all the time, but apparently I've been using it wrong.
This emoji that you millennials keep using, and you use it in the context of a side eye, but there are side eye emojis. Listen, I get it. It's hard to keep up with the things these days, but let's please use emojis correctly. This is like our parents saying LOL for lots of love after somebody dies. Context clues. Because in what world is not a smirk?
I use it as side eye and smirk, and I refuse to be policed for my use of emojis. This one particular user here on Reddit states, using real emojis like this is honestly pretty cringe. The old ones that were actually made from characters like this and this still have actual charm to them as remnants of a better time, and people using reaction images as a replacement for emojis is still pretty fresh. Emojis are just painful to see used unironically. And maybe I'm just showing my age here, but I do think that anyone who feels this deeply about emojis is probably someone who's just like chronically online and needs to get outside and touch grass. Some of the other things that Gen Z loves to mock millennials for is their love of Harry Potter and their love for Disney and hashtag wine time. One particular Gen Z TikTok from like 4 years ago, her caption reads, "Finally able to jump on the hashtag millennial hate trend, so happy to be here." And her text overlay writes, "NYU 14, writer, wine drinker, doggo lover, coffee obsessed, Hufflepuff, hashtag I'm with her. We are the daughters of the witches you couldn't burn." Very much probably a stereotypical millennial pose. And the comments again are just full of like people roasting millennials. Post anything about pre-2012 Disney. Only 90 kids remember this. Hashtag girlboss. Don't forget INTJ BuzzFeed editor. Nevertheless, she persisted. Putting NYU in the bio after they've graduated. Had to do adulting today. Don't forget the pillow that says forecast 99% chance of wine. Queen, let me save this. She believed she could, so she did. Dogo lover, sometimes I forget I'm even related to my sister because of the millennial blueprint she falls victim to. Loves avocados. She owns 6 shirts that say, "But first, coffee." So just a lot of stereotypical millennial tropes. Maybe this Gen Z doesn't realize it yet, but I think that there's going to be a high possibility that in 5 years from now, girls and women like her and just Gen Z in general are going to be roasted and ripped to shreds by Gen Alpha for things that they're probably doing right now that seems incredibly cringy. And again, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm showing my age, but I'm pretty certain it was Gen Z that started like, you know, this little thing, like the, "Oh, I'm so shy," like, "Oh," like this little thing they do. I bet you any amount of money that they will be roasted for that by Gen Alpha in like 5-10 years. I'm calling it. As someone who does love Harry Potter, this one does feel a little bit personal.
Tired of boomers bunching Gen Z and millennials together, because I personally don't want to be associated with people who still think that Harry Potter movies are a personality trait.
Ouch. Ouch.
I just can't fathom the idea of someone not liking or watching or reading Harry Potter. Like, what's wrong with you?
Maybe it's a possibility that a lot of the roasting and mocking did come out from Gen Z like 4 years ago, but maybe now they're just kind of over it and millennials aren't yet over it, because it does seem like in present day, I think Gen Z for the most part are kind of over it now. The list of various beefs goes on. You know, we know of millennials that mock Gen Z for their crippling anxiety.
I get phone anxiety.
You've been hired to make sales here.
Yeah, but I write emails.
And their crippling sense of doom for climate change. A lot of millennials claim that Gen Z were just simply brought up with technology and they're just living in a social media world. They don't know how to interact and how to socialize outside of a phone screen, which has led some Gen Z users on TikTok to essentially come for millennials parenting and technically mum shame a lot of millennials who they claim are raising iPad kids.
Hate Gen Z. They are just so glued to their devices, so torn away from the world around them.
which this could be a whole nother video. I'd like to talk to you about this. Let me know in the comments down below if you'd like to see a video like that. Some of Gen Z are claiming that they believe they will be better parents than millennials because they will refuse to raise iPad kids and kids that are going to be living on technology. I did also see a lot of rhetoric online surrounding how cringy it was that millennials just seem to stereotypically overshare.
I feel like everything that I'm saying, everything about me, I feel is just dumb and stupid. And one half of me knew that that wasn't true. But...
And I agree with that. However, what I came across, I don't think this is necessarily simply a millennials problem. I did see a lot of this oversharing also happening with Gen Z. So I do think this is just something that we see because of social media, regardless of the generation. Now, the last beef I'm going to talk about is the Eminem one. Not gonna lie, I do find it a little bit weird. But like I said, TikTok's search feature makes it almost impossible to find the earlier videos. But you will see if you look up Eminem, millennials, apparently Gen Z have been trying to cancel Eminem for years. I can't find this video because it's now deleted, but in 2021, a Gen Z TikToker came out with a video featuring the lyrics to, you remember the song, I Love the Way You Lie, the specific lyrics that said, if she ever tries to leave again, I'ma tie her to the bed and set this house on fire. And the text over the video said, yes, let's cancel him. And apparently there were other Gen Zers in the comments who enthusiastically echoed this idea. And the hashtag cancel Eminem 2021 does have millions of views. However, if you actually look at hashtag cancel Eminem, especially hashtag cancel Eminem 2021, what you do actually happen to find is, again, a majority of millennials rushing to Eminem's defense, claiming that Gen Z simply can't cancel Eminem.
I'm sorry, are you triggered? What? Oh my god, he's so triggered. You can see it all over his face. He's so triggered. What are you minion meme mothers and fathers talking about? The new Eminem song? Houdini? Oh, so you have heard it. Yeah, I've heard it. What'd you think? I mean, it wasn't his best work, but it was a pretty solid return to the Slim Shady persona. Well, if it wasn't so bad, then why are you all trying to cancel him? There is literally no one out there that is seriously trying to cancel Eminem. I have no idea why both of you do this every couple of years.
Like I said, there was this one TikTok that's now been deleted. Maybe there was a few others, but for the most part, I couldn't find any. All I could find was millennials standing up for Eminem, claiming that Eminem can't be cancelled.
Cancel Eminem. Gen Z's trying to cancel Eminem? Honey, that's cute.
Again, this beef resurfaced most recently with Eminem's kind of latest album release, because there was also a song that features on this album with lyrics that say, you're gonna cancel me, yeah, Gen Z me, brah, which led to a lot of millennials just loving this. They love these lyrics, and they were like, yeah, you can't cancel him, he's uncancelable. Again, I don't know of many Gen Zers who were like binding together, forming together, and trying to cancel Eminem. What you will see, I'm going to share some of the TikToks, is I think a lot of Gen Z TikTokers were essentially just rage baiting millennials and creating these videos that I can tell. I mean, I personally think they're just rage baiting. But again, if you look at the comments, you'll see that so many millennials are like taking it seriously. And I think a lot of Gen Zers are having fun with this, being like, ha ha ha, yeah, we've got them, we're getting them. Like, look at them getting all riled up over nothing. So again, this is very much a Gen Z sense of humor, and they're basically essentially rage baiting millennials and then joking and laughing at us because apparently we're too old to get that we're falling into the trap, if that makes any sense. And like I said, from my actual research on social media, on TikTok specifically, the beef seemed more one-sided, unless Gen Z were really more in it back in 2020. Now they've just given up and are just laughing at millennials.
I gotta say, millennials suck.
I suppose for the most part, social media has felt like it's belonged to millennials, because it kind of has. And I think some millennials are maybe having trouble sharing, or simply feeling like they're wanting to pass the torch to the younger generation, because they're trying to cling on to their youth and they don't want to be seen as the older generation. I mean, don't be wrong, I did find some Gen Z videos that did feel a little bit too riled up. One TikToker here, I know what it feels like to receive hate comments, but she did receive one comment from a TikTok user stating, there's nothing cringe about millennials. You wish you had our lives as 90s teens. You guys just have depression, they, thems, and think we are cringe. Now, is this a nice comment? Of course it's not. However, she then proceeded to make a 3.5-minute video about it.
This comment is quite literally giving me secondhand embarrassment from how cringy it is, so that's ironic. I'm just gonna start out by saying that your username is pugs, not drugs. Like, I don't even have to explain why that's cringe. That's the most millennial thing. Also, nobody's jealous of you. Like, what? I don't know what that take is about, but Nobody's jealous of you. Trends just repeat. That's what happens. It has happened like that for years. If narcissism could be in a generation, I swear to God, it wouldn't even be boomers, it would be the millennials. Once again, not all, but a good bit of millennials that I have spoken to in real life in person have told me this, that other generations are jealous of them. They put themselves on this pedestal, and it's like honestly very embarrassing because I've seen your eyebrows. I've seen the eyeliner. We're not jealous. It makes me cringe, like how dickish this comment is, because I can see you writing this like, you just wish you had our lives. You guys just have depression and they thems. I have a feeling that you don't believe in gentle parenting, and yet you probably need to be gentle parented. Like, do you feel better? Yeah. You just had some big feelings? Yeah. You feel like people aren't listening to you? You're embarrassing. Oh my God. It's literally, I swear to God, it's like I'm talking to like my mother. Like, this is embarrassing.
Are you not embarrassed? This is really embarrassing.
The way that you're trying so hard not to be cringy and defend yourself and say that you're not cringy, but it's like, it's making me cringe. I'm cringing. You are cringy, I'm cringing. Also, you could just take the L like everybody else in the comments. There are other millennials that are like, yeah, we're cringy, but everybody's cringy. You just don't know it yet, or they just don't see it yet. Like, every generation's cringy. That's true. Everybody's cringy. I just don't get upset about it. Like, this is what I'm talking about with the whole narcissism thing, because other generations don't get so f***ing defensive when someone's like, that's cringy. You guys are cringy. This is cringy. We don't get defensive. Like, for some reason, millennials get so fucking like red in the face, like defensive, like spitting. You're cringy. It's okay. It's okay. Take the L. It's fine. Anyways, I hope that you feel better now that your big feelings are out and we had this discussion. I really hope that you feel better. Also, do you guys like my lipstick? Because I feel like this is the perfect like 90s like grunge, like a brown and neutral, like a good 90s millennial look. Do you think so? Do you guys think this is a good 90s look? I don't know. I might just be like jealous.
She's a peach.
I was gonna say a bunch, but that just was 3.5 minutes of a lot. Did you feel like it was a lot? It just felt like a lot personally. It's really fascinating. I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below if you're older than a millennial. Did you have something similar like this? Did you have this beef? Social media has changed a lot about our world, especially in the ways in which we interact. And I do honestly think we're going to see a world in which Gen Alpha and Gen Z are probably going to be beefing as well at some point in the future. I found this one interesting article I'm going to have linked. It's basically about generational blame, and it's a brief history, and it shows that throughout the centuries, there has been this blame and almost this like making fun of and putting blame on the other generations. I mean, it goes back as far as the 4th century. You have here a quote from Aristotle. Young people are high-minded because they have not yet been humbled by life, nor have they experienced the force of circumstances. They think they know everything and are always quite sure about it. Like I said, this article states this is very much like a normal thing, but to see it on social media play out in this way, it's fascinating. If you have anything to add to this discussion, I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. What do you think of this whole millennial versus Gen Z beef? And also, while you're there, if you want to, drop what generation you are in. I'd love to hear that in the comments down below. I'm gonna have another few links for you here if you want to check those out. Thank you so much for joining me in today's video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.